I'm testing out this gimbal on this hammock, rooftop pool hammock. You can see this water here. This thing's amazing. I'm in Tulum. I'm in Tulum for the Tulum Crypto Fest. I'll be speaking as a panelist on Friday. Today's Wednesday. So I'm stoked for this. I wanted to shoot a quick video. I'm taking a friend of mine through the Mindworx program. He signed up, and it's interesting hearing the conversations that we have going on. It's different for everybody, but we go through the process of starting with the body control and the mind and the linguistic power of our prefrontal cortex and our human brain. By doing that, we can tap into the subconscious once we build the mind-body connection. But it can be tricky for us to build that mind-body connection if we don't start with a conscious mind, because a lot of us are disconnected, frankly. That's just what it comes down to. A lot of us are disconnected from our bodies. Our mind-body connection is weak or doesn't exist. Mine sure didn't when I started. It takes time to build. That's why my logo is an hourglass. You got to put in the time. You got to take the time. And if you think you don't have it, you got to make the time. Tim Ferriss says about meditating, if you don't have 10 minutes a day, you need an hour a day. And it's true. It's the way it is. If your mind is such that your beliefs are, I don't have 10 minutes. I'm too busy. I just don't have that time to give to myself, to improve myself, to better my mind, my mindset. Then yeah, you need an hour a day so that you can change that, right? I certainly did. And so we start with the logical, right? We start with, at first it's literally just, okay, if we're going to be meditating, I don't like using the word meditating, so I call it Mindworx because it's very specific exercises we do internally. And when people think of meditating, everyone has their own definition. So when we do Mindworx, we sit still. When I started, I couldn't sit still. And some people can, some people really can't. So we start with sitting still and working on sitting still and noticing what comes up. And if our bodies resist sitting still, if they feel agitated or activated, if they want to move. Once you have that kind of activated feeling, that's when you can start doing the work. And it's a group program, so you don't know where people are starting. So number one is we start with sitting still. That's called first 5. That's our first lesson. Week 2, we start tapping into the logical. Usually, when people meditate, their mind runs. This is why a lot of people don't like meditating, because they say, oh, I can't do it. My mind is too loud. I can't focus my mind on just my breath, which is true. Same here. I couldn't do it either. So with Mindworx, we don't even worry about that at all. We say, okay, our mind is, and then first 5, we don't care what your mind is doing. I'm just like, just worry about not moving, worry about sitting still, and don't care about what your mind is doing. Don't even try to focus on the breath. No part of Mindworx do we ever just focus on the breath. 0. Never. It's not an exercise in Mindworx. It's not a thing that is going to get us answers and insights to heal and to change and to remove the negative aspects of our minds, of our psyches. So we're focusing on the breath. We're not doing that. Call me crazy, but hey, against the grain, exercises and activities and ways of thinking can actually be very productive. So most people do what most people talk about. And if you want to be most people and be average, fine, go do that. But if you want to be above average and not live a mediocre life and not have a mediocre psyche and mind, you got to do something different. Little philosophy soapbox for you. All right, where were we? First 5, we're sitting still, not focusing on the breath. We're letting the mind do whatever it wants. It doesn't even matter what it does. I don't care. Week 2, walk the mind. Walk the mind goes with the momentum of the mind and of the thoughts. So you're going to have some thoughts because that's what happens when you just sit still for most people. For most people, the vast majority of people. Some people don't have an inner voice and don't have these thoughts, but practically everybody is going to have some kind of thoughts going on while they're just sitting there. So with that one, we walk with the mind. We go with it. We ask it questions. We engage it in a conversation to figure out why we're thinking what we're thinking, what's the root cause of these, and we're basically going to go down a rabbit hole. And we want to go down a rabbit hole on any train of thought that starts, any train of thought that comes up. We're going to ask we're going to ask it questions. Why am I thinking this? Where is this thought coming from? And you keep going and you keep going and you keep asking, and you go down that conversation, down any train of thought that happens, and eventually you'll reach some kind of conclusion where the thoughts will stop, where the train will end. And it might have been something very insightful, or it could have been something that doesn't really mean anything. Doesn't matter. All that matters is that you do the process. But the goal is to get the insights. You're going to do it multiple times, over and over again, on whatever comes up in your mind. As you do that, you will get insights. You will get things that are like, oh, I never thought about that, or I need to talk with my partner about this. They will come up. I guarantee it. That's Walk the Mind. That's how we're starting to tap into our subconscious, and as Carl Jung says, making the unconscious conscious. Otherwise, it will rule your life and you'll call it fate. And we don't want that. We want to be in control of where we're going with our lives. So that's Walk the Mind. As we start to get these insights, we can then track them and see how much they're really affecting us. But the point is to start building that mind-body connection with our psyche and dive into our unconscious, our subconscious. The next step, week 3, is called Ask the Body. We want to dive into the body a little bit more. The first one is very cognitive. We're having a conversation with our thoughts. Now we're going to drop in one level lower, and we're going to have a conversation with our body. Now, here's how that goes. It's still a conversation, so it's still linguistic. It's still using our prefrontal cortex, human brain, language, all these things that our automatic mind likes and is good at using. So we're still leaning into the strengths that we have already as humans. And with that, very similar to Walk the Mind, you're just going to do that with your body. You're going to look for something in your body and then start asking it questions and have a conversation. The things that we look for in our bodies are going to be some kind of uncomfortable, doesn't have to be uncomfortable, but often it is, some kind of physical sensation in the body that's internal. Something that's like a dull ache or a slight pressure or a heaviness on the shoulders, a tightness in the chest, something like that. When you find something like that, you're going to be out of tune with it because you haven't done this before and you haven't built your mind-body connection. This is why this is so important. We've lost touch with our bodies and we don't know how to listen to them anymore. So we're going to start listening to our bodies and giving it attention. So we look for these sensations, we have a conversation, we ask it questions. What are you? Where did you come from? What do you want to tell me? And you wait for your body to answer. You ask a question and you pause. Just like Walk the Mind. You ask a question and you wait. And an answer will bubble up. It'll come up, it'll just enter your awareness, your psyche, and that's your body giving you an answer. As you do that several times, Walk the Mind, you'll eventually get to some kind of conclusion. And you can do a mix, right? When you have an insight from a sensation in your body, you can then follow up with some cognitive, Walk the Mind type stuff. But it's like driving a car. You learn all the pieces individually, but when you drive, you just drive the car. So we get more insights logically, cognitively, linguistically with Ask the Body, but we're also learning how to sense what's going on in our bodies, and we're building that skill. And you learn to put certain words to these feelings, like I feel this tightness, or I feel a buzzing, or I feel activated, or it feels heavy, or I feel a pressure, right? Stuff like that. As you start to label these sensations in your body, you'll get better at it. And that's literally the building of the mind-body connection. And they'll start to move. They'll start to dissolve and release. And you'll work on one that's in one place, and then a few minutes later, you'll work on another one that's in another place. And that's the work. And then step 4, which is really the most powerful one. They're all very powerful, but this is the one that I do now on most days. It's called Let It Go. And it's called Let It Go because this is literally the how-to of letting go. If you're like me, you've read a lot of books or videos or have done a lot of self-help. Maybe you've done a lot of meditations. Not Mindworx, but a lot of meditations. And the goal of a lot of those is to let go of something. Let go of an idea. Let go of a relationship. Let go of an attachment to a person or a thing or a self-image or whatever. How effective have those things actually been at letting go of those things? For me, not very. Pretty ineffective, to be honest. And it was very frustrating as I was on my growth journey, wanting to grow, actively willing and able to put in the time and putting in the time and actually doing the things, and the letting go not happening. But they say, oh, visualize this and imagine that and just let it go. Or imagine you're connected with this thing and there's a cord and you just have some scissors in your back pocket and you cut the cord and you see it fading away in the distance and just let it go. Like, no, it doesn't freaking work. It didn't work for me. And I would not be surprised if it didn't work for you either. So here's how we actually let go. After Ask the Body, we've built that connection with the sensations in our body. And now we can start to manipulate them, for lack of a better word. We can move them. We can release them. We can engage with them. Just like the conversations in our minds, linguistically, cognitively, that we're having, we can now, with just our attention and where we put it and focus it, start having this conversation, start interacting with the sensations in our bodies. And as you do that, you put your attention on the sensation, you try to grow the sensation. Maybe you have to fall into the sensation, collapse into it, as if you're falling into like a well or like diving deep down into the ocean. Fall into that part of your body, wherever that sensation's happening. Try to find the center of that sensation. Just be it and feel it as much as possible. And you let it in instead of pushing it down. You let it come up. And when you do it, that is when it integrates. And that's when it lets go. That's when it releases. We've pushed these things down for so long and they're stuck. And that's why we have these attachments, because we have this stuck energy and it reminds us of where it came from. It reminds us of why we have it. And it's attached to something or some idea or some person or some whatever. And so as you do the let it go exercise of Mindworx, you literally are starting to dissolve and release the energetic charges behind these attachments. And this is how you let go. A friend of mine told me the other day, Andre, that's the how-to for Buddhism. I was like, okay, all right, that's cool. Right? Living an unattached life. You don't have to unattach yourself or disattach yourself from everything, but I'm sure there's some unhealthy, ineffective attachments that you have that you could do without. A friend of mine he said he holds on to grudges a lot. And he's like, man, I'd love to let those go. And I was like, all right, I have a process for you. It's the how to do it. My mind was so attached to so many things, negative, ineffective things, unhealthy things, and I couldn't control it. This is how I did it. This is literally the how-to of letting go, the how-to release. If you really put yourself to it, if you really put your mind to it, this will change your life. So that's the fourth exercise of Mindworx. And that's most of it. There's a lot of theory behind it. There's a lot of other details. And of course, there's the one-on-one work or the insights for you particularly. Maybe your mind works a little different than the average mind, which, hey, everyone's different. Everyone's energy is different. The guy going through my program now, he struggled at a certain level of trying to like feel the sensations. And so that gap between the cognitive, the linguistic kind of cognitive mind or conscious mind and his subconscious, he had a big gap between those. So how do we fill that? We have to look for the specific things that his mind is doing or not doing and start to address those specifically. And we're getting there. We're definitely getting there. But again, you got to put in the time and you got to know. So that's where I come in, right? That's where the one-on-one coaching comes in. But the process is the same. There's always going to be an obstacle. Everyone's different. But that's the general process. And it's like an onion, right? You've probably heard this metaphor before if you've done a lot of other types of meditation or self-work, where we're an onion, or we have this layers and layers of our psyche, of the masks that we wear, of our personalities. And you start to peel these aspects like onions of a layer, like layers of an onion one by one. And we're trying to get to a deeper core of the onion, which is us. And I was talking about that actually with a friend of mine this past weekend. And he said, isn't the goal to like there not even be an onion, just like nothing, no onion that's like the seed or something like that? And I was like, yeah, and that's your intuition. If you have none of these layers and it's just you, that's your intuition. That's your instincts. That is your raw self. Like that's your soul. That is you. That is the goal. to get to that point where it's just you and your intuition, your authenticity. Then there's nothing between you and your authentic self, and that's just coming through. We're all going to have layers to some degree, right? But the more we release these layers, the more we remove the layers, the more intuitive and authentic we're going to be living our lives. And then you can start making your decisions in a much healthier state, from a much healthier way of being, and you're going to be more authentic. You're going to be more intuitive. And guess what? Your life is going to be better. It's going to be more you. You're going to be happier. You're going to have a lot less cognitive dissonance. You're going to give a shit about what other people say a lot less, because you're doing what you want to do intuitively, and you know that at such a deep core level, what other people say or think doesn't matter to you anymore. That's how we let go of these attachments. That's how we let go of fear of judgment. That's how you let go of caring what other people think. I've been that way for so long, I couldn't figure out how to let go of caring about what other people think. And with the work, with Mindworx, I'm such a different person than I was even 2 years ago. And I've been doing this for years, for like 5+ years. So that's the process. I hope that helped. Somewhere around this video, there's going to be a link. Go ahead and click it, subscribe to the channel, click the link, and I've got the first lesson for you for free. There's a guided video. Get the first lesson of Mindworx from the website, or whatever other goodies there might be, and dive in. And if you need help, reach out. If you have questions, find me on Instagram, find me on my website, tophuman.co. Shoot me an email, hello@tophuman.co. And start taking back control of your psyche. Start being in the driver's seat. There's Mark Manson has a really good book. He has several really good books. I forget if it's his first or second book where he talks about the consciousness car. I think it's The Subtle Art, where he talks about the consciousness car. And your subconscious is sometimes in the driver's seat, and your conscious is in the passenger seat. And we want to get back in the driver's seat. You want to be in the driver's seat of your life. If you were given the keys to a Ferrari, would you take them and then drive and have a great freaking time driving the amazing car? Or would you take them and be like, actually, you know what? You drive. And would you sit in the passenger seat? Which would you do? I'd want to be in that driver's seat. Most of us are not in the driver's seats of our lives. So this is your opportunity to start taking that control back. Take the power back of your psyche, take the power back of your mind, and be in the driver's seat. And a lot of us play victim mentality. A lot of us play victim mode and have this victim mindset, but we feel like we're victims to external things, to that person, or to my job, or to the spouse, or the partner, or the money, or the government, or whatever. It's not a healthy way to be. And you're not actually a victim really to any of those things. But you are a victim to one thing. And that thing that you're a victim to is your subconscious programming, your conditioning, your automatic programming that's running your psyche, because it's behind the scenes and you don't even know it's happening, and it's within you. And sorry to break it to you, you did it to yourself. You did it to yourself to survive, because it was a survival tactic at some point in your life. You didn't know any better and you had to do it at that point in time, or you just didn't know any better, someone didn't coach you, and that's what happened. You ended up with this way of thinking, this mindset, and now it's subconscious and automatic. And yes, that, I would say you are a victim to that. But the only person who can change that is you. And the only way you can do it is by letting go of it, by unconditioning, by unprogramming that piece of your psyche. And go ahead and read all the other books you want. I don't think they're going to be as effective as Mindworx, because I've read them. So this is how you do it. This is how you take back control of your life, of your mind, of your psyche, how you recondition your automatic programming, and you live a happier human life. That's just the way it is. So I hope you subscribe to the channel. I hope you grab the free goodies I've got on the website, tophuman.co. Click the link somewhere around this video. And hey, I'll see you on the inside. All right? Take care.